This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. So, well, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us today. Happy April 1st, and just so you know, there will be no April Fool's jokes played on this call. But we just first wanted to thank you so much for joining us. This is a very interesting time that we are in right now. So we hope that everybody is safe and healthy. And what we at Preservation Massachusetts wanted to do was just to provide a little opportunity for people to connect, ask questions, to communicate with each other, because that is more essential than ever. And I think we're all finding new creative ways to stay in touch and share information. So that was really what we wanted to do with this little pop-up office hour. So just a couple reminders before we get started. Please mute your phone. I have the all being power inability to mute everybody, but I'll selectively unmute some of our PM staff who's on the phone. If you have any questions, there is a chat feature with this platform. So throughout the conversations, if you have a question, just use the little chat feature to submit them. We're going to try to answer questions throughout the little office hour. So if it doesn't get answered right away, we will definitely be sure to get to it. So yeah, so I really just said, okay, my screen is the joy of trying to work with GoToMeeting and a live PowerPoint presentation. Oh, hi, Jeff. Jeff is with us.
Good morning.
Hi, Jeff. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm trying to unmute all, right. Okay, Jim, can you hear me? I don't know why I didn't want to mute Jim. Unmute Jim. Jim, can you hear me? Jim, can you say something? Jim, can you unmute yourself, please?
How's that?
Gonna be fun.
I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, that's better. That's better. Okay. Stace is unmuted, and Nick, I think, has to unmute himself. So Jim, I didn't know if you had any thoughts of or welcoming statements to share.
Well, I think you covered it really well, Erin. And I think this is an opportunity for Preservation Massachusetts to reach out and have conversations with a lot of our preservation friends across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And from our standpoint, since we're all in our kitchens or wherever, but not in our offices, it really is a good opportunity to be able to share more about who we are, and also hear from our friends across the Commonwealth, things that they're interested in learning more about, and us just generally being helpful. So, thanks.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks. So, seeing as we don't really have any questions right now, we just thought we would start with just kind of a little, as part of our little general welcome to kind of kick things off. We at PM were thinking about a good way to start this off, and one of the things we thought one of our most valuable resources that we have is our website. And I'm sure if you're on this call or listening to this after it's been recorded, our website is probably one of the most commonly used or referred to tools that the Preservation Massachusetts staff has. And we've been working really hard to make sure that it's organized and has lots of useful information for anybody who is facing a preservation challenge or issue or has any sort of questions. And we were so happy last October to finally launch our brand new Preservation Action Center. And this is just one part of the website that I'm just going to give you a little brief introduction to right now before we get into some question and answers. So our Preservation Action Center was really a dream that we had that I personally had for a number of years. And yeah, I didn't even we're keeping this informal. I just realized I didn't even introduce myself. The person talking, I am Erin Kelly. I'm the Associate Director of Preservation, Massachusetts. Should have done this at the beginning. I haven't had that coffee yet today. So Erin Kelly, on the phone with us also is Jim Igo, our President and Executive Director, Jeff Gagne, our Eastern Mass Circuit Writer, Stacia Kaplanson, our Western Mass Circuit Writer, and Nick Moore, our Program Preservation Assistant. So with that out of the way, it was actually Nick who helped bring our vision to life with our Action Center last October. So if you go onto our website, right at the top bar, you're going to see Action Center. And if you contact us with the question, chances are we're probably going to refer you to the Action Center first. It has a lot of information on it. And this is, we really consider the site to be live. It is ever evolving, ever changing. Just yesterday, we were talking about some new additions and new model projects to put up here. So, so we encourage you to check back here often, because when we learn new things or about new programs or resources, and as we update our own internal preservation resources, we're going to be putting it right here. So this is really stop number one if you have any sort of preservation questions. But one of the most useful documents that we have and that we've worked on is what we call our seven steps for a successful preservation document. And as it says right here, it's the first one that we offer. So we really feel it's important and a really a great guide for anybody dealing with a preservation project or anyone who has questions. So if you just click on here, you can, you'll be brought to a PDF, and it really is step-by-step for preservation projects. And we know not every project is the same. They all have their own unique issues and challenges, but we try to be as general as we could here, but also offer some really helpful advice. So this is really, you know, it's one foot in front of the other. So step one, you know, historic and architectural assessments. You know, why does this building or site matter? Here we go into researching and getting as much information on a historic building or landscape as possible. This is where the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System, otherwise known as the MACRIS database, is really helpful. MACRIS is something that we as staff use quite a bit to see what sort of information exists on historic buildings if people are calling and have questions about them or concerns. MACRIS is administered, overseen, and maintained by the Massachusetts Historical Commission. It's a really great resource to use and sometimes just explore and see what's out there. Also, throughout the 7 steps document, you'll find a lot of links to other, you know, model programs or projects here. Here we have, in this first step, we talk about other communities that have really good step-by-step guides to doing historic house research in Boston and Andover and the National Trust, links to get information about architectural styles, all sorts of really great and helpful information. So, you know, step 2, we go into, you know, physical assessments, which is really where we're getting into the realm of more professional preservation assistance. Preservation Massachusetts maintains a preservation directory, which is a listing of, you know, consultants, architects, engineers, contractors that have preservation expertise and how to contact them, and different areas where they have expertise and they can be helpful to you. So just if you, and then we also go into some definitions, what's an assessment versus a historic structures report. So this is a very, very detail-rich document. It's got a lot of information. So even if you don't have a preservation project happening right now, it might be helpful for you to download it and just read it or just have it, or just refer to it on the website. But we do a lot of referral back to this document if people are concerned, or they have a historic building in their town and they don't know what to do with it, or they want to see it preserved or want to do something with it. This is where we'll send you first to kind of get a sense of how the steps needed, the very general steps needed to take on a preservation project. So, so we encourage you to check out the 7 steps document as part of our Action Center. Like I said, we have a whole lot more information from our roadmap to preservation success and down. Nick was very great to create this little resource center down here, which has model projects, funding opportunities, because everybody always asks where the money is. Toolkits, we have a whole section on historic windows, our most endangered program, information on climate change and resiliency. So we encourage you to visit our Action Center regularly. We're always looking for ways to update it. And if you have any ideas or suggestions on things that you think would be helpful for our Action Center resources or topics we should be covering, or you know of something that would be helpful to link through our Action Center, please send us an email. You can find all of our emails by clicking contact under the About Us page, which I'll do right now. And it has all of our emails and our phone numbers right there. So you can send us an email. It's been a little quiet for the past couple of weeks, which is okay, as we all try to figure out what we're doing. But that's just a quick little snapshot of the Preservation Massachusetts website. As I said, we're constantly trying to update it. So if you want the most up-to-date information, check out our website. And we also have our little news section right here, where we try to do a lot of updates with blog posts. And if you are not, we encourage you to sign up for our e-newsletter. And I don't know why that's not working. There we go. My internet is a little laggy this morning. Okay, that's not coming up. There we go. But this is our little news section, and it has lots of updates and posts. But we encourage you to stay connected, through social media, but also sign up for email communications because we will be sending out a lot more of those as we are working virtually. So that's just a quick little look at the Preservation Massachusetts website. Let's get all of that. All right. Okay. All right. And now we're going to go back to, technology is so fun. Here we go. Okay. So after that nice little guide, so what we'll do now is, we don't think we have any questions as of yet. Let me just go back and check. And I thank you all for being very understanding. We're really trying to navigate this. We're really trying to. Okay. My Mac always likes to change up how it likes to display things. So we'll check back for questions in a little bit. But first off, we will take some questions with the Preservation Massachusetts staff. And as I said, these are all the staff members that we have on the call today. And thank you guys for giving of an hour today and chatting with us. So just to kind of prime the pump and kick some things off, I'm very grateful to have our circuit riders with us, Jeff and Stacia. So what we wanted to do, Jeff and Stacia, just tell us a little bit about your position and your job at Preservation Massachusetts. So whoever wants to take it away.
I guess I'll go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead, Stacia.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say, when people ask what I do, I like to tell people it's a combination of a lot of things. Sometimes I really feel like I'm a cheerleader. Other times I feel like I'm a guidance counselor. That really, a lot of what the job is connecting people with resources so they can move forward themselves. And there's a lot of variety in the job, and that is one of the components that I really like about the job.
Yeah, I think that the question I get most often is, does it come with a horse or a pony? Which yep. Unfortunately it did not. but to the extent that we can, in addition to fielding questions by phone and email, we really try to make site visits as much as possible to get out and meet with people in the fields. And that can be a little challenging depending on the volume of requests for information and assistance that we get. But I think it's our goal to get in touch with everyone as soon as we can, and also to have that face-to-face interaction. Now that's a little bit challenging in these times. Where for the moment we've are primarily keeping to email and phone contact and video conferencing of various kinds. But there's nothing like actually getting out and seeing a structure or seeing a site and walking around with people, and that's to me one of the most interesting and fun parts of the work. It's just I've learned so much about not only the historic resources in the eastern part of the state, but about the efforts of various kinds by local activists to to push forward good preservation projects and practices. So it's been a learning experience for me, and I hope that we provide information that's useful to others in the process as well.
And I think the other thing that I really like to share with people is that, particularly because we're a small staff, that although they may be interacting with myself or with Jeff, that really they also have the benefit of us taking information, questions and all back to our colleagues. That I think one of the things I really enjoy about working at Preservation Massachusetts is that we work as a team. And so if I don't know something, or if I want to ask about, well, have you ever heard of this or that? It's not just me alone providing the resources, but it's really the wealth of the staff and the staff's knowledge to be able to answer questions and share our knowledge.
The Circuit Rider program, it goes back to Preservation Massachusetts. We've had it since for 12 years this year already. Wow. It was we first put it in place in partnership with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which was really back then keen on trying to encourage and enhance capacity of preservation organizations in the field. You know, at the time, our office was based in Boston, and I think at the time we had I think we only had 2 full-time staff at the time. But it was difficult, you know, when we get phone calls, you know, we can answer questions over email and phone, but the organization really felt that something was missing by not having that ability to be face-to-face, or to go out and do site visits, or, to connect with someone one-on-one, as Jeff said, is very challenging to do right now. But it was, we really felt that was lacking, and the state of Vermont had instituted this Circuit Rider program. Jim, was it like the late 90s that they did that?
You're always better with dates than I am, Aaron. I think that's right. Yeah, kind of lose track.
They created this idea of a staff person that specifically worked in the field. They weren't in an office, and they could meet directly with people, and it really kind of launched this new preservation position with a lot of organizations currently. I think every New England state still has at least one circuit rider working with them. So we're so grateful to have Jeff and Stacia, and they bring so much to the PM team. And also, it was after the Circuit Rider program that we really felt we could really be a better statewide organization. Massachusetts isn't big, but it's big enough when you're located on, in eastern Massachusetts, and you have to get out, to western Massachusetts, which is not Springfield, but out into the Berkshires, to be able to give them, those communities in need, just as much support and assistance as we could give to a partner that was a little more local. So we do have a question, and I'll pose this to our circuit riders. The town of Otis, the town of Otis is just about to launch a fundraising campaign. What insight do we have about what we can do? So Jeff and Stacia, any thoughts on how to launch a historic, any insight for launching a fundraising campaign? I'm assuming it's about a specific historic building. So any insight?
Well, even though this is Stacia's territory, Otis is near and dear to my heart these days because I'm spending a lot of time in the next town over, Sandusfield. But in my other life, I do fundraising and other consulting, and that's a big conversation that people are having now is, in uncertain economic times in particular, is it wise to, suddenly launch a major fundraising program of some kind? And my thinking in the conversations I've had with others who do this is, don't stop your planning. Keep the planning, keep the networking going, keep refining the story of your project. Keep trying to put things in place that will have you ready when the economy bounces back, which we hope will not be too far in the distant future, so that you're ready when the time comes, and you sense that people are able to contribute to a project. And that's for individuals. I think that many granting agencies are still going on as usual. For example, the Mass Preservation Projects Fund proposals were due last Friday, and those all went in on schedule. So if you're pursuing grants with deadlines, assume that those are all still good unless you hear differently. Although I do sense that some may be being a little bit more flexible because if you're relying on getting documents signed and various components of a grant proposal, that it takes interaction with an office or people, those, pulling that information together can take a little bit longer if offices are closed or it's difficult to meet in person. So I guess the long and the short is keep planning and keep moving ahead. Maybe delay to a certain degree the reaching out to people to ask for funds if you're sensing that the economics or the economic timing of that is not great, but certainly don't stop your efforts by any means, is what I would say.
Yeah. I was also going to point you to on our website there. There's a presentation that I think is really wonderful that was from one of our previous conferences. So if you go to the Preservation Massachusetts website and you go to the statewide preservation conference and click on that and then go into the past conference archive, there's a presentation that was done at the conference that talks about fundraising for your historic to fund a historic preservation project. And I think some of the suggestions in that presentation are particularly helpful.
Great. Thank you, Jeff and Stacia. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say there was a whole session devoted to this in the 2018 conference as well.
Yeah.
And so,
and that was the session I was referencing,
okay.
Jeff, the one that that you were part of. Yeah, it's that's in the past conference archive. I think it's the last program. It's the last presentation, but it is there and it's great.
And that focused as well on small organizations funding, smallish size projects too. So there was a variety of perspectives I recall from that session. So it is worthwhile it's great to have all those on the website where you can go back and call them up and look at them, because some of them were really quite useful.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say the other suggestion that I have when people are talking about fundraising is our colleagues at Preservation, the Preservation Trust in Vermont, run a series of workshops on different topics, and they may or may not be offering them this year, but in future years to look at the lake house retreats. They do have one that's on fundraising, and what it really focuses on, that particular session focuses on, is how to cultivate individual funders as opposed to applying for grants. And I think that it can be a really important part of looking at putting together a fundraising plan, is not just looking at grants, but looking at how to reach out to individuals who may want to also support your project.
Can I ask a question? Hello?
Sure.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, I'm Diane. I think Sonia and I are the two people on the call, and we're both from Otis.
Yes. Hi, Diane. When I saw your name, I said, "Yeah, it's Otis."
Yes. Well, as you can see, we're trying to be active. So my question is along the lines of planning public meetings, either for an explanation to the township about a specific grant that we're going for, or a specific designation that we're going for. If we have a town meeting and we give you enough advance notice, could we have somebody from your preservation group come down to speak, not because we don't know what to say, but because it adds more clout if somebody from an entity comes and presents, it has more credence. So is that possible? We don't have anything planned right now, obviously.
I would say yes.
Jeff's attended a lot of public meetings.
No, but Diane, it's a really good point that, if you, it's sometimes helpful to have the outside expert, for lack of a better term, come and kind of lend a little bit of validity to your local efforts. And I think we've seen that, even if we show up and are just there, in some cases, it says something. So, I think that that's a valuable, thing that we can do. And, as I said, I'm out there pretty regularly in the town next door. So, if Stacia were unavailable and it were less convenient, I'd be happy to do that at some point as well. So, absolutely.
Which town next door are you referring to?
Sandusfield.
Oh, okay. And why are you there?
Because as preservation people, we collect projects in our professional and personal lives. So I've been working on restoring an old farmhouse in Sandusfield for the last couple of years. So.
Oh, okay. Well, stop by Otis and say hello when you're there. I mean that sincerely. Give us a heads up when you're coming.
Yeah.
And we have no place to go right now, but I'm sure you're not going in the immediate future.
Right.
But that would be good. Okay.
Great.
We got a question about the link that's in the chat box right now is a direct link to the presentation that Stacia was referring to, the funding, how to fund your preservation project. So that is right there. And if anyone has problems, if you're having trouble tracking down a past conference session, you can just send me an email. I'm happy to forward you the direct link too. So. But I think, the message is, I think just keep, planning. And Nick Moore, our program assistant, wrote a little piece for our last e-newsletter, kind of, things to do while we're all stuck in relative quarantine, that really did mention that, how to keep your preservation project moving forward while we're all kind of stuck at home. And that piece is actually linked through on our website also.
Right.
So I think
I was going to say the other tool that's the other tool that I think is in the PM or can be a useful tool depending on the situation is that Preservation Massachusetts has our Most Endangered Historic Resource Program, and we are accepting nominations this year for that particular program. So you may want to look at that nomination and that program to see if nominating a threatened resource in your community, it would be a benefit or not.
Okay. Sonia, I see you're muted. If you unmute, you could just talk as opposed to writing in questions. You just click on your microphone.
The only reason I was just trying to keep it to keep the mute on and have people submit questions via chat. We only have 7 people on, which is fine. Just to try to keep the program going forth. But if there's any other questions, you can we'll definitely, any questions that are submitted, we'll try to answer.
Where do you submit a written
to answer as much? Excuse me?
I have other questions. Do you want me to submit them in writing? And if so, where do I click on to submit it in writing?
There is a chat feature. If you look, there should be a little box that's either on your where you see who's on, and there should be a little looks like a little conversation bubble, a little thought bubble. If you click on that, you should be able to write in there. But if you are having problems, well, since there's only 7 people on, if you have a question, I'd say just go for it. What's your next question?
Since I have your attention, I will do that. Otis is a fairly small area. We have 5 or 6 projects that are ongoing right now. Do you have a recommendation for a town that has set up a really good website that we could mirror, or steal from as far as ideas are concerned? We have somebody who's working on a website for us.
As a historic commission, or just as
I know I saw Tolland, and that looked pretty good. Are there any others you would suggest to look at so we don't reinvent the wheel?
Good question.
Yeah.
You might want to reach out to Chris Skelly and shoot him an email because he sort of has his pulse on all historical commissions across the Commonwealth, and he might have a suggestion of historical commissions that he's seen that have compelling web presences. And if he doesn't get back to you or you have a hard time connecting with him, let me know and I'll I'll try to facilitate that.
Okay.
That is a good
And
question.
then I have, the last question was, when you mentioned endangered properties, what kind of properties do you consider endangered? Do they have to be in danger of falling? Like we have the church in the center of town, which is now owned by the town.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and pass a resolution at the town meeting, an approval, so that it could meet qualifications for wording for grant, that it's going to be held in perpetuity. My question is, with everything that's going on now and our fundraising efforts really halted in the middle, would the church qualify for this endangered program? It's not functioning. It's going to need a roof. We just got a projected bill for $5,000 for tree removal because the tree is damaging the roof. And it needs everything if we're going to hope to preserve it, which we'd like to do. Would we
Well,
expect to apply for historic preservation for that as part of the historic district for town? But that's going to be a 2-year process. I think we're going to need the money yesterday.
I would really, this is Erin, I would really encourage you to go to the most endangered page on our website. There, it really explains what the program, and it's on the screen right now. There it really explains what the program is, most importantly, what it isn't, and really what we kind of, what the program tries to do. We've created a how-to guide for actually filling out the application. Once again, hats off to Nick for helping us do that, and also has a link to the application as well. So endangered, there's a broad spectrum of what would qualify, you know, threats to resources. It could be development, it could be, you know, abandonment, vacancy, it could be insensitive redevelopment. It's a number of things, but really this is where people, communities, voice their concern about historic resources and their you know, their concerns that they either won't be there in the future, or severely altered and, you know, losing historic character. But I would really encourage you to go check out the website, and if you have any questions about the program, and then you can just, I believe, I think my email's on there if you have any questions, or you could also reach out to Stacia as well. Any of our staff really can answer endangered questions too.
And I think Diane, I think it depends on how you'd like to use that. So for example, one of the great things about that program is that it really, you know, if the application is, the nomination is successful, then it says, wow, a kind of panel of experts, for lack of a better word, thinks that this is one of the most, you know, significant endangered buildings across the entire Commonwealth. So if you're trying to build momentum for an effort to save the building, either through planning efforts or fundraising or whatever, it can be a really strong tool. And, you know, I think the other thing is to be concerned whether it might set up an adversarial situation. So for example, if you've got a productive working relationship with the town and everybody's sort of rowing in the same direction, you know, how would the perception of the building being listed as one of the most endangered resources sit with some of those people? And sometimes everyone says, yes, this is a good thing because it brings good attention to this and it helps us all, you know, solidify our message and our thinking. Sometimes, you know, it can have the opposite effect too, where, you know, people don't appreciate the fact that it's been flagged like this, then, you know, it can put a damper on communication. So I would just, you know, take into account the local sentiment and, you know, for lack of a better word, political sense around it as well. But it certainly is a great way to bring attention to the status of the building.
The town voted $100,000, I think it's 3 years ago now, for the one-room schoolhouse, which we're proceeding with. So the town, for a town of 1,200 people, has put its money towards historic preservation. But we, you know, there's a limit. So I don't think, if it's presented properly, I don't see how it could be taken negatively. It's bringing money to the town, and that's for something we want to save. I have one last question, and then I'll shut up.
These are
My
good
last
questions.
question is, we have the Knox Trail, which I think you're aware of, which runs
Yeah.
through Otis. We have a member of our committee who's one of the premier authorities on the Knox Trail because he's so interested in it. He kind of like knows every stone. We were planning on doing a video of the Knox Trail
Oh, wow.
that could be used, by people to look at, and also that would go on our website, etc., so that it would, serve that purpose. Of course, we're stopped in our tracks right now. We do have somebody who tentatively can film it. We have some of the money for it. Hopefully, they'll extend these, the state funds that we have from other sources because of this virus. But has anybody done a video like that you're aware of? That's my other question. What we envisioned was Tom and another person, or maybe 2 or 3 people, would walk the trail being interviewed about it, and they could do it in period costume because we can go to Barrington Stage and get costumes for it. And this could be used in schools, for the town, etc. Any thoughts?
Hey, it's a great idea. It's very mysterious and it's not always apparent where it is out there. So I can't think of any examples. Stacia, have you come across anything?
I haven't, but I'm thinking that another place to ask your question would be through the Massachusetts History Alliance. So if you're not familiar, I don't know if you're familiar with that organization or not, but if you Google Massachusetts History Alliance, it's a statewide alliance of different types of historical organizations. And certainly there are commissions who participate in the conversation as well as museums. And there may be, through that avenue, there may be a group across the state that's done something similar, would be willing to share their experiences with you.
Okay, thank you.
Great
Sure.
suggestion. Diane, thank you. These are great questions. Thank you so much. So feel free to, this is like, you're really taking advantage, you from Otis, you're really taking advantage of the office hour. So, any other questions, just shout them out. These are great. And the one great thing about this is, you have these questions, but it's possible that someone else who may eventually watch this, whether it's on our website, may have a similar question, or it kind of inspires them to do something similar in their own community. So even though questions may seem specific to Otis, I think it really will have a lot of resonance with other communities and other people around the state. So thank you very much. So
right. Do you know anything more about this? Do you know whether the CPA offering has increased funds for this year? Our town vote did not vote for it for the last, we put it up twice, and there's a town meeting coming up.
Are you talking about whether the amount of funding is increased, or the amount of communities that have CPA has increased?
Well, I guess the question is would it pay for us? When I spoke to them last year, the amount of funding that was available and that they were going to be distributing was not really enough to make it. It wasn't a dollar for a dollar. It was down to like 20 cents on the dollar. Do you know whether it would pay?
It may. I would encourage you to go to Community Preservation Coalition. Right. Go to the CPA statewide CPA website. Last spring or summer, they did have a very big success where they were able to pass. They were able to get a more dedicated funding source, and the state match for CPA has now been increased. I don't know what percentage is that. I think it's somewhere in the 30s, but it is more than what it was probably the last time you spoke with CPA. So the state match is, I think, when they got the additional, and Jeff and Stacia, if I'm wrong, feel free to jump in. I do believe the new dedicated funding source, it's going to be at least guaranteed somewhere around 30%. So that increase, that could actually help you pass CPA within your community. So I would go on to the CPA website to see what the latest amounts are.
Okay, thank you.
And it's my sense, Diane, that Stuart Saganor and the folks at Community Preservation Coalition were really working hard, because Boston came online 2 years ago and some other big cities, they were really worried about the match percentage decreasing. And so it's my sense that they've been working really hard to try to keep that percentage up for the very reason that you've identified, because it really is that, added value of the state match that pushes some communities into yes. So was it a close vote in Otis, or?
I think we lost by, the mentality in Otis is interesting. It's the original families that were here and who are descendants of, the town people, as opposed to those of us who have moved here and have become residents, is a different way of thinking. It's a very independent way of thinking. And the thing that sunk us the last time was somebody got up and made a statement that we don't need the state's money. We can do things on our own. And including the selectmen, everybody voted against it. Of course, to my way of thinking, dummy, this is your own money you're getting back,
You're leaving your own money on the table is what you're really doing.
Right, well, I understand
you're
that.
paying into it whether you're taking anything out of it or not, so.
Right.
Yep.
But
Diane,
that was it. That was the,
Diane. Yeah. Diane, back, it was in July, and I'm on the CPA's website right now, as you probably see. The increase in recordings in deed registration fees, it's estimated to bring in an additional 36 million to the trust fund, an additional 36 million for CPA communities each year. And they also received a $20 million budget surplus allocation with the last passage of the budget. And that was, I believe, that came online. That was signed in January, I believe. Yeah, 20 million extra. So there is more money available, which may make it a lot more appealing to Otis. And and Stuart and the team over there can be very helpful in working with you to get it on your town meeting.
I have time to work on that this week. I'm just wondering if they've also increased the floor of for earnings level where you're exempted, because we have a number of people who, money is very tight, and even an increase of $50 to $100 a year was something that they didn't want to entertain. So, but I'll look into it.
Diane, that's a local decision that you can make. It's very, there are guidelines, but you can set whatever exemption makes sense for your community. And so I think in a community like Otis, where there are a lot of second homeowners, and that if you're a full-time owner, exempting a large amount of your property value is possible. And I know there are guidelines, but there's a fair amount of flexibility, and I think that Stuart is good about being strategic about this. So Stuart Saganor at Community Preservation Coalition. So I think it might be worth take a look at why things didn't pass in the last few years and what the arguments were, and then kind of try to craft your argument in a way that addresses those. Because I know, for example, when it passed in Boston 2 years ago, the folks advocating for it really put a lot of time into saying this is going to cost the average taxpayer $24 a year, and it's going to generate $27 million a year that can be spent on these three important things. So people really saw the value added of doing it for a relatively small cost. So
I see the value of it, but the mindset is an interesting one to contemplate. So it's a challenge. Sonia is texting me that she's lit up as green on the microphone, but she's not able to speak, I guess. She said that she's not turned on literally.
Okay, hang on, let me. All right.
Oh, hello.
We're all learning to use this.
Oh, okay. That's Sonia. Okay. All right.
I want to just
Sonia,
say to Jim, I just wanted to say to Jim that we have been really amazed at your staff. We've gotten to know Stacia, who's been an inspiration, and now hearing from your other staff members, really blown away at the job you guys are doing.
Well, hey, and I've been fairly quiet because we have such good experts. I think the circuit rider program is especially important. It's brought Western Massachusetts, into the fold of Preservation Massachusetts. And years ago, we were viewed as kind of a Boston organization, and I think people didn't pay very much attention to the fact we were statewide. But I think over the years, we really have concentrated on becoming a genuine statewide organization. And, to have the two of you on the call, I think means an awful lot to all of us. I know Stacia and Jeff take a lot of pride in their work, and Aaron and myself and Nick as staff certainly appreciate that. And we appreciate your coming on board here and asking questions. It's really nice. So thank you. Thank you for the compliment, and it's shared with the entire staff.
Well, who can we send a letter
Thank you.
to acknowledging your efforts? Job security.
Well, no, actually, I think in our upcoming budget, Diane, didn't we make a donation to the
Yes.
circuit riders?
We did.
So I guess that'll be coming in our next fiscal year.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you very much for being on. I was, as we were kind of talking yesterday at our little staff meeting about this, I said, even if I think I even said, even if 2 people get on, I'm going to consider this little pop-up office hour a success. So, so thank you for being on and for your questions. This has been, really great. And if we can do anything to help you with, whether it's the CPA or the most endangered, we're here. And Preservation Massachusetts, we actually sit on the statewide steering committee for CPA. So we usually get to hear about who's looking to put CPA on the ballot and efforts and initiatives for adoption at the local level.
So Erin, my question was though, is there somebody we could write to acknowledge your good efforts in addition to our donation? I'm talking about job security for you guys.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I would say I have no clue, Jim. I'd say send it to you, but you're on the phone.
I know.
I don't know. Send it to our board chair.
Yeah, that would make sense because
Sure.
we raise money too, and having a letter like that in the file is helpful for the people who support our organization as well. And if it were addressed to the board chair, that would make sense.
Yeah, if you wanted to do something like that, that would be great. Very generous of you.
Could you send me a link with the address and who you want it to go to? I'll do it. This.
I can.
Well, the website.
Okay.
I have a question that's a little off message. I like the format of this GoToMeeting. I'm wondering if you could tell us, what do you pay for this service?
Let's see. The reason we actually got GoToMeeting was to allow our board to have a little more interaction when if they had to join remotely. We have a free conference call number. So with freeconferencecall.com, so you just call it, but you're just hearing things. So we're governed by a volunteer board of directors, and with meetings, it's not always possible for them to be there. So I think a lot of them wanted to, if they're accessing remotely, to be able to see the documents we're talking about, or see people if they felt like, using the video feature. So we had to go with something that was a little more business focused. I think it was something, I don't know, it was maybe like $150 or something for a year subscription, somewhere around there, for GoToMeeting. I do know there are other, sorry, go ahead.
Is that unlimited meetings?
It's unlimited meetings. We can hold as many of these as we want. We could do one a day or several a day if we wanted to. The only restriction we have for the level I believe we're at is I can only have 151 people attending virtually at one time. That's it. The price goes up, the more people that you can have, and I think you can have capacity. But we've been happy with how it works. We use it when we have our little staff check-ins because we can see each other and wave. There are other options out there. One of them that's become really popular, and we're all hearing the word now, is called Zoom. They actually, I think you can pay for the service, but they have a free platform as well. And actually, in the next 6 minutes, my son, who's in second grade, is going to be on a Zoom with the rest of his class.
Well, I
So
think
that's
that the problem with the Zoom is that it's not interactive the way this seems to be.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
It can be, Sonia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that is
Tricky,
great.
they're all-
That's
They're
all
all a
I.
little
I don't know
different.
if it's as user-friendly as GoToMeeting. I used to use it for grad school classes, and it was
Okay.
pretty good, but
This
it
is,
took a
no,
while.
this is Nick.
Hi. How are you?
That's Nick. He's our preservation program assistant.
Any other member of the IT department?
Yes. Yeah. Small staff. We have we all wear many hats, but if
Nick,
you
I'm
just go on to go. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious, how long ago was that you used it for grad school?
In last spring semester, so spring of 2019.
I'd be curious to know if you went on it again, if you see differences.
Yeah, I could always take a look. I
Okay.
still have it downloaded.
Well, the stock just dropped 16 points today because they have an FBI investigation. So
Oh.
Oh,
Free
Oh,
is
boy.
not free. Apparently, they grab your information when you're on it.
Yeah.
yes,
But I'm sure that's true of everything today.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
well, I'm gonna ring off. Thank you again, very
Okay.
much. Thanks for
Thank
letting
you.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Sonia.
for joining.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
Goodbye.
I guess if we've got nothing else, I'll ring off too because I have a date with my grandson in 5 minutes.
Oh, good.
So,
Oh, enjoy.
thank you. And
Thank you, Diane.
You're very welcome.
thank you. And are you going to be able to just send me a quick email with who to send that letter to? I'll try and get it out in the next day or two.
Stacia, do you have Diane's email or contact information?
Stacia's muted.
Stacia's mute. Diane, if you could possibly
write to
send me,
Stacia.
Yeah.
write to Stacia. I'll get the
I'll write to
information to you.
Stacia and say, okay, I'll do it now.
Okay, yep, I will, yeah, right. Actually, yeah, I'll send your, Diane, I'll send your information, I'll send your and Sonia's information to Erin and have her get in touch with you guys.
Okay. You could actually,
Thank you
could,
very
if
much.
you want, you could just send it to me because
Sure.
Sonia's involved with tax season now, although they've extended
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Either way.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send it to
Thank
you then,
very
Diane.
much.
Okay.
And
This was
thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.
I
Thank
feel
you,
like we're the
Joan.
only
Thank
ones
you.
doing preservation. Okay, thank you. Have a
Take care.
stay safe.
Okay, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye. So, to the PM staff, it's about 10:58. We can keep going through some other questions, or do you want to just pick off a couple, or would you just prefer to wrap up? The goal is even though this was like, how lucky is Otis? They had the entire staff answering their questions.
Right.
Yeah.
We can tell people it's like, you missed out.
Mhm.
So would you guys want to sign off because we're almost at an hour and we can pick up with the other questions on another one, or
Yeah,
I'll leave it up to you.
I think maybe saving some of the questions for the next
Yeah.
one makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think it would be good to do another one next week or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
To keep it going.
if we're all amenable,
So
and we can
Erin,
talk about this.
how do we know who's on the call? I feel like we're kind of groping in the dark here a little bit.
Well, a little bit. I can see, and what I may do for the next one is make everybody make our staff give you administrative capabilities so you can see who's on. I can see who's on when they sign on. I can mute everybody. I can unmute everybody as the all-powerful admin. But if I do that, you guys would be able to see that too. And also, you could. Excuse me, then, you could share your screen, like if Jeff had a presentation on his computer or some pictures he wanted to share, he could take over the screen and he could share his screen and back and forth. So it's pretty robust.
Well, I think it's just good to, it's kind of nice to know who's on the call, and who you're actually talking to.
Jim,
and I
Jim,
am at their mercy. If they don't write their
say,
name, I'm a little bit at their mercy of because I didn't know it was Sonia. It just said SFS. So if I don't know them, if they don't write their name, I don't know who they are. So,
Jim, I'm on my phone, and on my phone, and it may be different if you're on a laptop, but on my phone, on the top next to the chat box, there's a little icon that looks like people, and it has a number next to it that tells you how many people are on the call. And if you touch that, it gives you a list. At least on my phone, it gives you a list of the people, and that's how I knew that I didn't know who the person with the initials was, but it did say Diane's name on it, so I knew Diane was on it. So as people join, that's the place where you can see who's listed on the call.
Another option is we could always encourage a sign up through like Eventbrite, similar to what we did for the resiliency webinar. I'm just a little reticent to do that because we wanted to make this very accessible to people, and they could literally just click and join whenever they wanted.
Like there's no registration.
Well, even if you, Aaron, you have the ability to see who's on, and if it's not a huge crowd, say it's 20 people, you could kind of enumerate to us, as you're kind of introducing them, just so we know. I didn't know if there were 50 people on or there was one person on. That was kind of where I was.
Well, I think, and we're still being recorded, and this will go up on YouTube, but I do think it was, I would definitely say it was a success. And thank you, Jeff and Stacia, for all of your, careful, buddy. Liam, you're plugged in. Sorry, apologies. I'm trying to get Liam ready for Zoom, and he's going one way and things going the other way.
It's snowing.
But I think this is.
It's snowing?
Yeah, in Plymouth, a little bit.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay. But I would say I do think this would be good to continue going, and if anybody's watching this on YouTube afterwards, and you have any idea for future topics, please let us know. But I think we can maybe look into doing something again next week and say that this was I would still consider this a great success. And Jeff and Stacia, thank you so very much for sharing all of your insights and your tips. And I think Otis feels very special right now, as they should. But any other thoughts from you guys, or Nick, or anyone else want to say anything?
Oh yeah, I think it went really well.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I think office hours, right? It really was office hours, and I think that it served its purpose. We wanted to be accessible to people and have an open door, and the door was open, and people came, and we had a conversation. So what more success could there be?
I know. I feel really good. And I will say that, even just yesterday, just talking with you guys, even during our staff check-in, I felt a whole heck of a lot better yesterday than I did the previous day. So I think it's important to stay connected and talk to people. That's very, very true. So, well, I hope all of you, thank you again for everybody for joining in. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy and stay safe. And we'll be in touch about next week.
Great.
Okay. Sounds great.
Sounds great.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.